What if the version of you've been chasing is actually the one you've been trying to return to all along? The one before the noise, before the burnout, before you started shrinking to fit a life that never really fit you. This isn't about starting over, it's about returning. Returning to your soul, returning to your truth, the version of you that has always been meant to be. Each week, we're going to offer up real stories, hard earned wisdom, and practical tools from powerful returns to help you reconnect with who you are and why you're here. I'm your host, Bryan White, and this is The Return Project. And today, sitting across from me is Chelsea Elizabeth. She has a story that the first time when we sat down and connected, it blew my mind. She is the epitome of what we would call resourcefulness, recovery, a massive return story. And her return isn't from the typical life giving you a kick in the face. She literally almost had that. I'm going to let her share that, what happened to her, because it was a fluke accident that changed her life. So, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today. It is an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's great to be on here and thrilled to share a little bit more and hopefully dig in as deep as we did at the last conversation. Yeah, kick in the face, kick in the head. There were a couple of kicks. Growing up on a farm, you get kicked a lot, stepped on a lot, but never have I been eaten. Never did I become dinner, but that particular night I became dinner.
Well, Chelsea, I would love for you to share with our audience how your life changed and what it brought to you, what it meant to you, and how it all unfolded because you were living a pretty normal, pretty cozy life before your life got altered.
I consider myself very blessed. I've had a beautiful life from childhood, fantastic parents, still married, high school sweetheart, still married, still in the same house. Beautiful life growing up. Anything that you could want. I stand alone in a lot of that and am thrilled to. And growing up, of course, it had its challenges. Being ADHD, dyslexic, type A, Aries, extrovert, all the above. I like to learn things the hard way. So the curiosity got the best of me, but it was nothing that erased the life I lived. And nor did I ever take into consideration that one's life here as we live it could ever be stripped away from them. The thought of that, even today, doesn't register. And making sense of letting your old self die, grieving the you once were, is a lifelong process, I think, because there are a lot of times that I'll sit and reflect and wish I had a rewind button. If I could just hit rewind, I would. Now, how many of us have sat there and thinking, my God, why did I do that? Where's the rewind button? Let me start over. We've all done it, right? If you haven't, you're lying to yourself. I know you have. And we've all had those moments where we just want to quit. We're done. We've had enough. Make it stop. God, take me now. You don't have to admit it out loud, but I know you've thought it more than once. I have. But, the key to it is not acting on it and trying to find a reason to stand back up. That was normal, typical life, grew up pretty sheltered, moving off the farm, off to college, learning experience, surviving on your own, the jobs, the houses, moving. You survive those. But along the way, what we don't realize, and what I didn't realize until recently, is that I call those microtraumas. Those are life's micro traumas. It's not a major trauma. It's nothing you can really complain about without somebody kind of looking at you sideways. But it changed your life, didn't it? Whether it's good or bad, you still had a life you had to leave behind. And so those micro traumas stack up. And for me, it was one Sunday. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary. August 20th will be the 2-year anniversary. And I had what they consider a catastrophic trauma. Sounds like, the earth falling in, swallowed up by the ground. No, it was my pup that I had just rescued. He was found on the streets, put in a pound. Rescue found him. Day later, he's in my house. First month, a little bit edgy. I was crawling back into bed one night, and he had jumped in, and he bit me on the arm, right in the tricep bicep. And against my better judgment, I ignored it and went on. And it was a week later, that Sunday evening. Normal day, just like any Sunday. Get up, Go to church, go work out, have lunch, hang out with friends, do your thing, do your life. And around 6:30, around 6 o'clock that evening, dogs in the back field. And when they went out of sight, this pup turned on me. And when I say pup, this pup outweighed me by about 75, 80 pounds, probably. Big pup, Great Dane. Always had Great Danes. Still have one right over there, still loving all over her. But he came and he launched and he went for my face and my ear. I fell, busted the chin, and all I needed to do was grab the carotid and try to get to the back door, back sliding doors. I can tell you a story of how it happened, but it's not true. And I realized that when I watched the videos and looked at the photos. The story I remember is very different than what actually happened. I could have told you I made it out of the house easy breezy, pitch black at night, couldn't see anything. If anybody knows anything about August in Florida, it's bright and sunshiny until 9:30. So, 6 o'clock in the evening, see everything. The door did not reflect an easy getaway. Fast forward, I start, and I remember waking up in the ambulance. I remember flashes of different things. I also remember flashes and feeling like I'm floating and knowing that I'm dying, and that I'm gonna die, that this is pretty well it. And only thing I think of is, did I tell my mom and dad I loved them? What's gonna happen to Amelia, my friends? What I haven't done. And that was the only thing that was in my mind, is the people I loved and the opportunities for time with them and to share with them. And that's a painful reality, because when you're there and you're dying, there's no rewind button. Luckily, obviously, no ghost or angel, certainly not a demon, but here I am, survived. Received quite a bit of blood. I had severed every artery but the carotid. I had a clot in the vertebral artery, entire scalp, face, ears, nose, chin. It was nothing. It was just scattered. And you look at me now and you're thinking, your entire face, your head. Sure enough, it really did happen. And you can't see anything unless I pull off this little wig and give you a look at the back of the head. But if you follow me on the social media, you've seen the head as well. The prognosis wasn't good. Obviously lost a lot of blood, had a clot, and the injuries were on my head, most vascular, face, infection. Tissue had already begun to die, skin grafts, more infection. It was horrible. And when I kept living, they pulled me out of ICU. And when I kept living, I got to go to trauma step down, which isn't much better. They don't give you too much more time by yourself. When I finally got released from the hospital, I had to go home with home health. For those of you who have had or not had home health, let me tell you, it has to be like the healthcare version of house arrest, because when you have home health, the insurance company won't let you leave your house. And so I'm sitting there, of course, where am I going to go? I've got Penrose drains throughout my head, but yeah, it was that thought and the idea of, oh my gosh, if I want to get in my car and leave my house, I can't. And as I started to regain a little bit of strength, I think the strength came back in my mind before my body, but kind of pushed home health to the side and went back to the gym. When I went into the hospital, the bed weighed me at 116. Just good for me. That's the heaviest I've been. I thought, and I knew I was in the greatest of shape. I had worked out, biking all the time, eating well. Yeah, at 40, best shape of my life, and I've always been an athlete. And when I got home and had to hop on the scale said 88. 88. My body essentially ate itself to stay alive. Of course, laying around, all the muscles that it didn't eat atrophied. And so getting back up was more of a mental mindset than a physical ability. But I called one of my trainers, and I think it was a Thursday, by that Monday, I was back in the gym. And if I miss a day at the gym, even today, almost 2 years later, it's because I have a meeting or some other reason. There are a few reasons that I don't. But I learned throughout that in wound care that just to heal the face, the head, my body was consuming 4,000 calories. Okay, so we've got at least 1,500 to stay alive. We got 4,000 to heal, 5,500. Then I'm working out for hours, doing walking, keep moving, and you just start adding it up, and it's like, how how am I supposed to eat 7,000 calories worth of food and not explode? Number one, you're not. You will feel like an Oompa Loompa. It's not comfortable. I don't miss those days, but I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice because in my mind, what was on the other side of it was going to be better than what was. And so I really consumed my mind with that aspect of it. Let's heal the physical, triage. Well, when the physical gets back on track, the head has time to confuse you a little. We'll say confuse, and reality sets in. I mean, nothing. I mean, I'm queen bee of outrunning problems. Let me tell you, if it can be outrun, I'll outrun it like nobody's business. I'll race you to the finish. But there were things going on emotionally, psychologically, physically, even that I didn't have a name for, that I didn't have an explanation for, that I didn't want to deal with. And so I kept shoving it. And it was 14 months after the attack. Released from wound care, doctors still coming into my room, just in awe of the full recovery because I beat. They no clinical reason, can't explain it other than God. But it's 14 months, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what is coming out of my eyes? You know, growing up, oldest on a farm, I'll give you a reason to cry if you've ever heard that, you know, and I don't mind not crying. I really didn't have any reason to cry before. And all of a sudden here I am crying, and I'm like, what am I crying for? Why am I crying? And then it happened again and again, and I'm like, I gotta go get my hormones checked. Women, you understand what I'm talking about. And sure enough, no problems there. So at this time now, keep in mind, being, knowledgeable as I am, I had a life coach, trauma coach, therapist, psychologist, okay? So, I mean, I was armed and ready for professionals, and we had been talking through everything the whole time. So why would I be upset? Why would I have any kind of psychological trauma, emotional issues? Then, instead of focusing on the full recovery and pretending everything was great and fine and how happy I am, I had to get honest. Have you ever gotten honest with yourself after lying to yourself for, a couple of years, decade, even all your life? It's about the hardest thing you'll ever have to do is look in the mirror and say, you know what? Something happened and it was bad. And I need to figure out what it was. And so we rip off the Band-Aid. We pull the photos. We pull the videos. I go in my portal, which at that time was 11,000 pages. 11,000 pages. And I go line by line. And I think there was about a month where I really had no ability to function. Not in public. Anyway, not all cylinders were not firing because I didn't know what to do with the information that I had, and here's Amelia, that I had to digest, for lack of a better word. How do you look and see yourself? You're reading on the paper, you're coding out, you're dying, and several times. And then when you look at all the evidence that says, yeah, only remaining artery, vein, vessel, is the carotid. That was the one I remember protecting. I remember thinking, if I don't, that's it. Clot, a blood clot in my vertebral artery. How does that even happen? Makes sense why I was on so much heparin. But at that time, you don't register a lot of the clinical information that you would otherwise know. And so the real work began after, I was fully recovered, 15 months down the road, 15 months. And all of a sudden, every micro trauma, in addition to the major trauma, hit me. And I was flat. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to get up. I didn't care. I couldn't. It was more than I could handle. It was more than I could work through. I didn't want to. That's the beginning of where we are today.
We had talked a little bit. When we first connected there that on top of all this, before everything happened, you had a fairly decent career, and all through this, you got laid off from your career to add to this as well.
Oh, well, yeah. See, people don't understand the little micro traumas that are in that. And that's what we're going to dig into next is, so we had the obvious, the physical, we had the obvious emotional. I mean, anybody sitting here listening to me would say, yeah, no doubt Blondie. Of course they're going to have emotional trauma. But it wasn't my pup. There really wasn't much I could do when something like that happens. And people don't understand that I'm not afraid of my dog. I'm not mad at my dog. I grieve my dog. That's my dog, you know? It's like whatever happened to him, I couldn't save him. He didn't know what he was doing. He was protecting himself. And that's what I hope a lot of you understand is it wasn't an attack on me. It was him protecting himself because whatever he had endured before, far worse than anything I could ever understand. Um, yeah, knowing that, yeah, I'm a farm girl. We don't like to lose our animals. And, you know, people can't believe that I still have a Great Dane in the house. She goes everywhere with me and lays all over me and kisses. Yeah, she's there. And when I got home from the hospital finally, that dog cried crocodile tears, human tears falling because she knew what happened. And, you know, I had to triage her too. She had her own mental health battle. And, you know, yet again, another micro trauma. So there's one dog, there's two dogs. I had a lot of friends I thought were friends that disappeared. Suddenly I couldn't do anything for them and they had no use for me. So they just left my life. And then I had people that were supposed to love me that just couldn't handle it and left. And so suddenly here I am, rock bottom, below rock bottom, and everybody's leaving. What do I do here in Florida? You know, I moved to Florida for work. And so I have good friends and definitely some people that I love and care about. But I got to get out of here. And so, yeah, I went home for a week and it turned into 4 months. And a lot of the healing started there. A lot of what we're discussing, a lot of the foundation, my book started there when I started to listen to family members and real friends talking about the pain of different circumstances, different situations, anything from job loss to death of a loved one. It's all the same. I'm like, huh, that's very interesting that we all feel the exact same way. So let's fast forward. I have to come back to Florida and I want to get back into my life. Well, what life? Nobody waited on me. So people, places, things gone. Fast forward. I've been with my job. I worked from a hospital bed. Had computers, iPads working as soon as I could get clarity of mind. Laid off in May. Of course, the book's not going to get published until the end of the year, November. The foundation, I really have just now gotten it up and running. So everything, the importance of my life came into question. And that was a very hard thing to have to shuffle through is if these people don't care about my life, my well-being, what I sacrificed for them, what am I doing here? And that begs another question of why am I even here if nobody cares? What? And that's a very painful reality when those people you thought were your friends are gone. Your boss, who knows you were working from the hospital bed, lets you go. Then what? Then you're all alone. Really. You had a tragedy, your life got ripped out of your hands, and now you got to rebuild. Well, where do you start? Where do you start? That's the biggest question.
Where to start is always a huge question. And it leads me into wondering if, before any of this, had you ever been a spiritual or religious kind of person? And after all of this, did you lean into any sort of spirituality, religion, or did it open any doors into wondering if there's more to life?
Always have I been spiritual. Grew up Southern Baptist, very, very conservative. I mean, anytime the church doors were open, we were there. And so I had that backbone. I had that background, very, very strong faith in God. He had pulled me from plenty of my own messes. And so, you know, I had seen firsthand his miracles, and there was nothing that I could deny about this miracle. But I will tell you, faith in God, my love for God, I was mad. I was really mad because what did I do to deserve this? And so it's like anything, the phases of grief. And once you phase through, you have to realize that you didn't survive the unsurvivable for nothing. God did not bring me here to leave me here, to just bring me here. There's more to it. And so I started looking back at different notes and things that I had taken and jotted down. When I'm at my worst, I like to check out and write and just take the power away. And when I put it together, I'm like, that's kind of a book. And so sure enough, it was. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to find a group trauma therapy. It's like, there's got to be plenty of those. No, there aren't any. There was one that was a meetup, and I could pay the guy, I think, $180 to go each time. And I'm thinking, that's not really in the budget. I'm already $1 million into this new head and face thing. So, I really don't need to. But it wasn't organized. It wasn't taught, led by a mental health professional. And I had caught some of the notes on YouTube, and it wasn't even in keeping with what trauma recovery was. It was addressing the obvious when you can't, that's what I was doing, and it was all wrong. The obvious thing, you're supposed to be scared of dogs, you're have PTSD, and the whole list of the normal things. Nope. I am atypical. I did not fall into the norm category. And as I was speaking to people, neither did they. And so as I continued reading, I thought, well, fine, I'll write my own curriculum. I'll write my own group therapy. So I did. And then I wrote the training. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll start fishing my book out there. If my book gets picked up by a real publisher, real book deal, not one I'm paying whatever you pay to have your book published, if somebody actually wants my book, then I'll move forward with the rest of it. I think it was 3 months after I started fishing the book, I got caught, and I landed a deal, a really good deal, one that fit my big project, one that would take everything that I had written down where it needed to go effortlessly and easily, because that's the specialty. And looking at all of that, read a lot of what I had written. And a lot of what I had written, I'm a good writer, but it was sensational. And I thought, there's no way that I wrote that. And to this day, I have to believe that God's voice went through my hand, and whatever is in those pages of everything, what went into this foundation is the work of God. Because I'm really great at business. I've done the startup. I've done a lot of the business development, scaling, but not to the level that I did in the last 2 years. It's not within my complete wheelhouse. And so there was definitely a higher power within me that had a message.
I want to take us back here for a moment, and we've done a great job of diving into the explanations of your microtraumas. I would love for us to define for our audience what a microtrauma is. What is a clear definition for someone to understand really a microtrauma versus an extreme trauma?
No problem. Extreme catastrophic trauma, it's going to be a car wreck, somebody falling from a skyscraper, near-death experience. Those are the obvious ones, just, ICU, hospitals, doctors, etc. The microtraumas, those are anything that negatively impact your life. Anything that wrong and made you sad, made you mad, upset you. That's a microtrauma. Whether it be, I hate a lot of these things that we grew up, like time heals all wounds. Number one, it does not. And then sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never will. Wrong. Words are horrible. And so a lot of people can cut to the core with their tongue alone. And bullying, I would call that a major trauma. But anyone saying something off base, especially someone that you love or care about, that's traumatic. It takes the body, it takes the nervous system, and it skips a beat. Relocation, divorce, death of a dog. If you're a piano player and you have a broken finger, to me, a broken finger is no big deal. I go on with my life as it is. For you, that took your gift away from you. That's a trauma. It's not anything that you feel like you might be able to go and complain about, but you should, because that is part of your life. That is who you are. There are days that we all wake up and we're just not in the best of headspaces, and we don't know why, and anything can set us off. A lot of that is born from what I've learned from those microtraumas that just never got processed, never got identified, never did they ever get the time they needed. We just keep shoving it and shoving it and shoving it. I hate how a lot of things work. You have a death of a family member, a death of a dog, and you've got to be at work the next day. Okay, who's benefiting there? Number one, you're at work, but are you functioning right? Are you, really doing the best of jobs? No. And why would you be expected to? And then putting time limit on how long we can be sad or upset. I mean, who's got the watch? Because we need to have a conversation. Put the watch down. I can be sad for the rest of my life momentarily if I need to be. And so there's no time out. There's no time limit. And like I said, time does not heal wounds. Time changes. It doesn't heal. Changes who you are, changes where you are, but not the pain you feel. It isn't until we do the really crummy part of it and start digging through everything. And we're talking about reaching way down into the guts and ripping everything back up. And you'll realize that those micro traumas were eating you alive. It's not the major trauma. It's the micros that kill us. And we don't validate those. And even with my major trauma, I went about unvalidating it. I made a full recovery, right? So it couldn't have been that bad, right? It wasn't that bad. I unvalidated myself and then had to start all over again. Not good. Not good. Don't do that.
I would love to take a moment here and really dive into this fun piece of you've got someone such as yourself who had a large trauma, has worked through all the micro traumas and is working through them. And yet, how did you not get stuck in the why me? How did you not get stuck in that why me?
I never said I didn't get stuck there. Let me tell you, I got stuck there more times than I even like to admit. I was really, really stuck there a week ago today. Last Monday, I was stuck in the why me's. I was really having just a Jesus take me now. How we get through those, I wish I had the, magic 8-ball perfect answer. We have to start believing in ourselves. We have to start believing that we're worth it, we're valuable, we're important, we matter, we mean something. I don't get up and go every day. It's a lot of times it's a forced effort. A lot of times I would rather no instead of go. There are days that wherever I'm going, if I'm going, of course I'm going to work out. And there are days I don't want to do that. There are days I cry all the way there. Don't know why. Lot of reasons. But the why me, I think it's for all of us going to be a constant. And it's going to be a constant battle that we fight for the rest of our lives. It wasn't until I started speaking to different people and sharing my story that I realized that I'm not alone. All of us have the slit your wrist moments and the why me's and cry in the shower, cry all the way to the gym, don't want to go, pity party, hissy fits. It's human nature, unfortunately. But you just have to find reason. You have to find something that day to hold on to and some reason to keep hoping for a better day. And I mean, it was Monday night. I was laying down to go to bed, and it was the prayer of all prayers of, I can't keep going like this. Tuesday brought a new day and new hope, and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And, this weekend just passed. Nothing really to report, but have to keep praying and hoping for a better tomorrow. And you have to believe in yourself that you're worth it, you're valuable, you're important, and you matter. And most of all, like we all love, we're not alone. You're not alone. I'm sitting here in front of a camera. If I was to give you some kind of pump you up, perfect, rah-rah cheerleading story, but I'm not, but I could, because look at me. I look all put together and happy and great, and like I've got the world grabbed in my fist. But I'm here to tell you, if you ever see me, the better I look, the worse I feel. But it's a way to get out of the headspace. I mean, a lot of days I would just go through the closet, pull out some cute dress that I hadn't worn in a while, throw on some cute shoes, and go to the grocery store. Just because getting into something other than the gym clothes, hospital gowns, good grief, made me feel a little bit better, a little healthier. Some of the weight came off. Me, ADHD, I'm not good at staying at home. It's really, talk myself up, pet myself up to stay at home, and rarely I can do it. I learned that being at home wasn't ever going to bring me happiness and peace like it does a lot of people. And if I needed to go out and work out or be in any environment with people for the energy, then that's what I needed, and nobody could tell me otherwise. And so you have to find the things that work for you. There's no secret concoction of sorts, there's no rules, and there's no magic at all. It's just figuring out who you are. And like I said, coming back from your own death, I'm still learning who I am, and who I am changes a lot. But I'm glad. I'm not always happy, but I'm glad that I keep going. Sometimes I feel hopeless, but I still find a way to halfway believe in hope.
I want to go into a space where I'm going to pre-emphasis by saying this could be a case-by-case scenario, but I want to dive into your case specifically on this. How did you not come home with severe PTSD, the trauma? How did you not, and how are you not petrified of dogs now? Typically, somebody in your scenario, we would think, would have severe trauma and never want to see a dog again in their life. How did you not come to that? How did you not get that PTSD? And we know that scenario by scenario. We're going to put that out there first. But
Right.
for
Yep.
yourself, you still have your dog right beside you.
Yes, I do. Absolutely. One thing with that one, anybody that knows dogs, that was an easy one. She shivered in the corner. I remember looking up, and dogs are pack animals. And she knew, as bless her heart, she's not even a beta. I will call her a delta. She knew that she couldn't do anything other than not join. And so, she was my pack. I knew that Amelia was nothing to be frightful of. However, in my mind, it is logical to think that dogs would terrify me. And of course, I told you I armed myself with all the coaches and therapists and was ready. And that's what they said, just be careful. PTSD, I live with it every day, but it's different for everybody. I can still hear teeth scraping my skull. I can still hear that bark, that growl. I still have, the flashes that'll literally jar your body out of bed driving down the road. Flashbacks. So the PTSD, a good friend of mine who was a veteran told me early on that PTSD is a life sentence, and it's what you do with it that can either make or break you. I can't get rid of it. It was great. I was reading through, I think, Facebook posts, and one doctor swore she could cure PTSD, and I read it and just kind of went dark, and I mean, I couldn't breathe. I'm pretty sure my heart stopped, and I thought, he can't cure this. And so I read down, and I mean, he unleashed on this poor girl. I doubt that she has been back on Facebook. But that's how we connected. And I thought, you know what? In that moment, you saved my life, because telling somebody that you can cure something that you know is incurable takes away the gravity of it. And so with PTSD, it manifests differently in all of us. I realized that my son, big animal fan. I mean, we all are. And so I realized early on, he likes to go to the pound and to animal rescues and play with the pups. And that's always been our thing, to go and help the pups play with the pups. And I went in and barking, I mean, complete chaos. And I wasn't even phased. And I thought, okay, well, we'll go to the yard. I mean, they're leashed anyway. Nothing's going to happen. And I mean, one jumped up on me and unfazed. And so stepped back and, let that kind of sink in a bit. And then I had a friend of mine I was hanging out with, and the pups just, jumped up on me in my lap, all over me, medium sized retriever sized dog, and looked over and said, "Does that not scare you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And it was in that moment that the fear of dog didn't even register in my brain. The trauma, the events, what I can hear, what I can see, yeah, that's traumatic. The people that left me, I'm sorry, PTSD, on probably some level, I think losing a loved one, or someone abruptly leaving you, cause PTSD, because that person, they're part of your heart, your life, and then suddenly they just disappear and it rips half your heart out. That's devastating. That's trauma. That's got I mean, I think that's PTSD. A lot of those things loop of those people that I'm like, wait a second, what does love mean to you? Because it means something totally different to me. You and I are not on the same wavelength as far as that's concerned. And it's amazing that the trauma of my dog attack is from people and not dog.
I have a two-part question now. So I'm really curious to know if the fact that you have to put on makeup, put on a wig, and it changed your physical attributes about yourself, does it ever make you feel vulnerable or fake, or do you ever get, I don't know, a materialistic outward feeling where it's weird because that's not what you used to look like? And then to build on that, do people look at you differently?
A lot of people that were in my life then aren't now. But at first, yeah. Anyone that's lost their hair for whatever reason, cancer, alopecia, age, hormones, nobody really, I mean, there are a lot of things that need to come with directions, but nobody really tells you how to use it, what it's going to do. And it was a major learning curve, and it was a time suck. I'm somebody that we're talking, tinted moisturizer, some lip gloss, a little bit of mascara, out the door. We're done. If I need to meet you, I can be out of the house in 10-15 minutes. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God, 15 minutes turned to 2 hours. 2 hours turned to I quit, I give up. And then, for a long time, he had the scars and different things. And so you couldn't wear makeup. And so when you went out, you were exposed completely. And audacity of people is remarkable. But really asking you just inappropriate questions of did your husband beat you, just terrible facelift, God, so many times over. And so it became painful to go out because the questions, the people. So 2 weeks after I finally got home, I still had the Penrose drains in my head. And with those, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, you've got drains. I had 8 of them throughout my head. There was no wearing a wig. There was no putting anything over it. It was just bulk. And of course, my head was so swollen anyway. It was very isolating. I think I went to Walgreens and someone asked me what type of brain cancer I had. And like I said, questions that no one should ask you. Fast forward to, like I said, almost 2 years. So we'll call it a year and a half of learning how to wear the wigs, learning how to do the makeup. And, since, I've had, I don't even know, I've got one more surgery coming up, but I've had so many different procedures done to fix some of the muscles, some of the, imagine everything's ripped off your muscles, tissues, tendons, skin. So they have to, find donor and reposition and remove skin. I had a lot of swelling in my eye sockets. So there's a lot of skin that they keep having to remove. My temple, it had gotten eaten. I had a big hole in the side of my face. So they had to fill that up. Probably 26, 7 surgeries. And so every time I would get back up for a long time and start feeling physically fit, energized, I was going back down. And then it was another, depending, 7-10 days in bed. And then I'm running back out of the house with black eyes and scars and back to the same people that like to ask inappropriate questions. I'd get back on my feet and down again. And then fighting with insurance companies. Just talking about a trauma. Fighting. I had some of the teeth that were knocked out and broken, and before I had a gorgeous smile. And fighting with insurance over dental and getting denied and denied and denied. And oh, it's after wear. I'm like, well, okay, I'm 40 years old. There's obviously natural wear, but my teeth weren't falling out of my head. So, it's been that. And still, they're like, no, they closed the case on that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, 2 years nearly down the line. And insurance is like, no, we're not going to take care of your dental. And so, okay, I've been, suffering through that. And I'm thinking, you know what, healthcare people, this is my first defense of health. And you're denying me a quality of life. And then some of the procedures and operations that had to be done. Someone else, somewhere, is dictating my quality of life. What gets to be done, how I feel. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And that's a trauma.
Would you say, I know you said you grew up as a farm girl, and typically, even myself growing up kind of farming here, we have a thick skin to begin with. But did all of this give you a much more resilient, thicker skin to let a lot of that roll off your back and not take it personally?
I don't know that I would go with thick skin. I think that it opened my eyes to acceptance. So yeah, I mean, we'll call it thick skin, and a thicker skin of acceptance to where what people say to us, if it is off base, if it is in poor taste, it has more to do with them than it ever had to do with us. Trust me, if someone is coming at you for no apparent reason or for accidentally brushing their shoulder, they got way more going on. It's not you. And so learning that, and being able to put that into perspective, into proper perspective, and kind of file it away, compartmentalize what's important, what's real, what's not, and come to terms with whatever is said to you has more to do with that person than it ever had to do with you. You really have to work hard at that, because it's easier to say, oh yeah, maybe I am selfish brat. No, you're not. No, you're not. You've been in the parking spot for 2 minutes. This guy just pulled up. You are not a selfish brat for sitting. That, is just an example. And you are not selfish for grieving something that happened to you. Grieve it however long you need to. You begin to learn that you can survive on your own. I'm beginning to learn that I don't need people. I want them. And when you can want them, it's a beautiful relationship. And you really have to change the tone of that. There's, of course, always need and need. But first you need to want, and then you need to need. And so it really taught me how to kind of rewire a lot of those things that are in us. And I mean, growing up, the one thing, graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, get a job, buy a house, get married, have a baby, live happily ever after, right? White picket fence, dog, all blah, blah. Okay, that's not everyone's dream. And just because somebody told you that's the American dream or the Canadian dream, let me tell you, you have your dreams. Live your dreams. What I learned through all of this is that those American dreams we have over here in the good old US of A. Oh my God, they were my anchors. They were the coffin I was locked up in. They were holding me back from everything I wanted to do then and now. It was more of entrapment than anything else. And so please, if you hear nothing else in this, follow your dream, not the dream of mom and dad or the boyfriend or your best friend. Follow your dream and really do some deep down soul searching before you wake up at 40 years old and think, well, who in the world was I living for all these years? I mean, 2 decades of my life, and I was doing it because that's what you're supposed to do. No.
So, Chelsea, this seems like a great place to bring our conversation full circle. And at the end of every one of my podcasts, I like to pose a really deep question. So, Chelsea, the question that I throw out to everybody is, what is your definition of truly living your best life?
Roll back to that dream you dream, and seeking the freedom that allows you to be authentic, and authentic in all ways, joyful, happy, fulfilled. For me, it's not home ownership. It's not the white picket fence. For me, fulfillment, happiness, joy is helping other people, using something horrible that happened to me to encourage others. That gives you freedom. That gives me space to grow. To live your best life is to live your life. Live your life. Live it the way you want to live it. Don't do anything criminal, but live it. You only get this one short trip. And if you remember where we began, laying there, knowing I was dying, I had come to terms with that logically. Well, what was it that I wanted? Love, friends, family, love, time. Those are my values. And don't wait until you're on your deathbed or death floor, as in my case, to figure out what really matters. I mean, it took me this long, so let me hopefully save you some time. Deep down, we all know what our perfect life looks like. How bad do you want it? I'll leave you with that. How bad do you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it? Are you willing to let go of everything that holds you back? Ready to change people, places, and things and do it all over again? If you are, it might be worth it. You don't know until you know. You don't know what you don't know. But you know what? What do we love? God didn't bring me this far to just
Just to
bring me
leave me here.
this far. Just to bring me this
I love
far.
it. I absolutely love that. So, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an incredible conversation. Your journey is inspiring. Your resilience is amazing. And your ability to walk forward and out of this kind of situation and take the revolutionizing concepts that it's about love and living your life. I loved every minute of it. Thank you so much.
Good. You're welcome. No, I've enjoyed it. And I hope you guys liked what you hear. Follow me, social media. I'm everywhere. I get a lot of messages. Please, I respond to them all personally. And I love to hear from you. Anybody that likes what they read in the foundation and it speaks to you, I'm always looking for sponsors and partners and volunteers and would welcome you with open arms. But yeah, anything else that I can do, I'd love to help you. I really love helping, and so I hope to have the opportunity again and again.
That's a wrap on today's episode. A heartfelt thank you to our guests for showing up with honesty, depth, and wisdom. And thank you for listening in. I hope something in this conversation stirred something in you, a memory, a reminder, or maybe even a return to a part of yourself that's been waiting. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask a quick 30-second favor? Share it with someone you know, someone who might need to hear this message too. And don't forget to explore past episodes. There's so much more waiting for you there. Until next time, I'm your host, Bryan White, and this is The Return Project.